tactic. They use that.
Another tactic. She's breaking it down for you, brothers, man. She's breaking it down. So listen, study this woman. She's all over it. She's on top of it.
Those who are last will be first. So basically, you're not gonna get your riches here on earth. You gotta wait till some afterlife. And we basing some after
You got to wait to.
tactic. They use that.
So listen, study this woman. She's all over it. She's on top of it.
Those who are last will be first. So basically, you're not gonna get your riches here on earth. You gotta wait till some afterlife. And we basing some after.
You got to wait to.
All right. Shalom. First and foremost, as always, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory unto the Most High, His only begotten Son, call Halayim La, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakak Radash. All right, double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, Wabarakathum, unto the hopeful elect. And I'll take through the Spirit. I want to go into a lesson entitled Riches. You see, and now I wanted to do a quick video, going into that, man, because Jake is so simple. They believe that because they have have a certain amount of money or riches, which really there's not wealth, but they believe that since they have a little bit of wealth, that they're on a level, when really everything that they're building up, every amount of money that they have, they ultimately have to forward it to help forward Esau's kingdom. They don't have no say-so in trade. They don't have no say-so when there's war coming on. Israelites aren't in the W-E-F meetings. That's what it means to really have power and authority, you see? And we're not going to get that until Yahweh Shah returns. Now, as far as just having money, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're able to make a decent amount of bread and it doesn't get in the way of the ministry, then do that. You see? We don't preach to just be sluggards and you don't work, you don't do. No, man. My elders, I'm a babe in this thing, but the time that I've been in this truth, ain't no none of my elder brothers or no brothers ever told me to, just don't work. The Lord finna return back. Just don't take care of yourself and all that. No. So you have a lot of Jake that'll think that's the spirit that brothers are in. That's definitely not the case, But going back to the video, she said, the first shall be last. Really, that was speaking about because that's going to happen again. Because you have people like these Jake that are in high ranking positions like Michael Jackson and LeBron James, Floyd Mayweather, and all these guys like that. They have a lot of wealth, and also they have a spot in this world. So it's in a sense they kind of like are a high-ranking person when it comes to our people. Now, if you compare them to Edomites, they ain't shit, because this is Esau society and they're helping forward Esau society. But in a carnal sense, those are like the top guys, and that's kind of how the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the men of the Sanhedrin were. They were in high-ranking positions, and they had status. Okay, they had a say-so when it came to various things, man, and that's what shows power when you actually have that. You have, because like Jake will have assets, but then you got to pay the property taxes, to Esau Edom. You don't pay, they'll take your shit. You got to go. You don't pay your mortgage, you got to go. If you don't follow certain guidelines, they'll get your ass on up out of there. You see, because it's not our kingdom. You don't have no power here. So no matter how much money the Israelites think they have or they trying to obtain, there's nothing wrong with obtaining money, but you're not supposed to prioritize that as your salvation. Like, this is going to save me, because you got to make your living and shit's getting more expensive. But however, we're about to be in a point where money's going to be done away with. So everybody that has money, they have a certain position, they got assets, that ain't going to mean shit when they make everything digital, because they're going to have that device and they're going to have a universal basic income, which they can control everything. They can control how much you can spend. They can automatically withdraw money that you owe off of your money because it's digital. They'll be able to charge you more for certain particular things because you're not an Edomite or not of a certain status, so on and so forth. You see, they're gonna take it to that level and be tracking everywhere you are, what you're doing. If you're doing anything that's against what they want you to do, then they'll be able to be on your ass quick when they put that device inside of you. And that's the type of life that people are gonna be brought onto. And it doesn't matter how much money you have. That's gonna be this I don't want to say dictatorship. It's another word I'm looking for lack of better words. This tyrant activity, this activity of how Esau is getting ready to do. Our people aren't ready for that squeeze, and it's getting ready to happen. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It's not going to save you from the evils that he's getting ready to bring upon you Israelites and also just people in the world. You see, and then also it's not only to add on, the Lord is going to be bringing plagues and different judgments. You see, so you can have bread all day, but guess what? That's not going to save you from the judgment of the Lord, which you got priests to prove that. But going back into what I was talking about, true wealth. All right. And what I put was break it down in the form of having input in politics, having assets and owning servants like Solomon in the Bible and in Kings. And that's what a king would have. A king had ownership of land. He had say so. Israelites don't have say so in this society. You have to answer, and everything that you make, every ounce of money you make, you have to give it back into this society. So you're not really rich or wealthy. You see? You have to go to your enemy and want of all things, and everything that you own, you have to feed into this kingdom. It's not feeding your people. It's feeding into those little hats and those top elite. You see? So they're the ones that are truly wealthy, not you. You can't be rich in captivity. OK, but it says from the perspective of ancient kingship in the Bible, because that's what I looked up is what is true wealth. And then I said, break it down in the form of having assets, owning servants like Solomon in Bible and in Kings. Now let's read on it. It says from the perspective of ancient kingship in the Bible, true wealth was much bigger than just coins or gold, because that don't mean nothing. I mean, it's an asset. But what really means something is having power and influence, having a say so. You see, it says it meant power, influence, land, people, wisdom, and stability in people. Like you own people, you have servants, you have slaves. And that's ultimately how America got foundationalized off of Israelites being slaves. Free labor all those years. You see, and that's what true wealth is. You own stuff. You making decisions, power, influence. We don't have that here, and the Israelite will never have that. But guess what? When Yahweh Shah returns, you will. That's when we're gonna get the glory. That's when we're gonna get honor. That's when we're gonna be actually rulers. We can't rule on this side because this is not your kingdom. This is Esau's kingdom. And Jake be trying to be like Esau and thinking they can be him in their captivity, and it's not gonna happen. Even if you sell out, you're still gonna be on a low level, and you're gonna have to bend over, touch your toes. You're gonna have to do all types of wicked rituals to get on a certain glory or get to a certain level, wearing dresses and things of that nature, worshiping. It's idol worship, and he's gonna force you to do that, and you're gonna have to be all into the freakism, because when you get to a certain level of status, you gotta tap in with those little hats. Those top elite, you got to tap in with them, or else you can't have all that status and glory, and you ain't tapped in with them. You see, but that's what Jake don't understand. And even when you do tap in with them, you're still not really wealthy. You don't make no decisions. You see, everything that you're building up is not forwarding your people; it's forwarding their people. It's forwarding Esau's kingdom, Esau's reign and rulership. All right, it says a king like Solomon was considered wealthy because he possessed multiple forms of dominion. It says treasures and assets. It says gold, silver, livestock, chariots, ships, forests, vineyards, storehouses. Wealth was measured by what you controlled and produced, not just cash. And we don't control or produce anything. Esau is controlling and producing everything. So she's talking about, we're not going to get our riches on this side. Duh, you're not going to get your riches on this side. We're in captivity. And and I wanted to get this just to edify, on what true wealth is. Having some money doesn't mean shit, especially when they're about to make everything digital, and it's not going to really matter how much money you have, because they're going to be able to control what you can buy, how much you can spend. And at that point, it's like you're on the level that they really look at you on as being like one of their little cattle, one of their little slaves. It says political influence. Kings respected Solomon. Foreign rulers sought alliances and trades with him. Right? It says influence over nations, diplomacy, and decision making was a form of wealth itself. You making moves. You see, on trade routes, who goes to war? You see, we don't have no say so in that. You see, you Israelites don't have no say so in that. It says this next one. It says next bullet point: land and infrastructure. It says cities, ports, roads, palaces, fortresses, and the first temple. Owning productive land and buildings, lasting structures show national strength. Right? You own land. I'm talking about whole countries and stuff that belongs to you. We don't have that. States that belong to you. You don't have that here. Why don't you tell you why? Because you're in captivity and you never will have real wealth under Esau Edom. It says servants and labor force. It says households included servants, workers, soldiers, officials, craftsmen, stewards. In the ancient world, having many people under your authority represented status and capacity to accomplish large things, right? You don't have no servants or slaves. That's true wealth. It says next one. It says peace and security. During Solomon's reign, the kingdom experienced relatively peace and prosperity. Safety and order were signs of blessing and successful rule. Right. And it says what? Wisdom and reputation. It says scripture emphasizes that Solomon's wisdom was part of his wealth. People traveled long distance to hear him speak. Knowledge and judgment increased the king's ability to preserve power. And that's all the stuff that King Solomon had. But these show real wealth. Somebody that's really wealthy or has riches. Having a whole bunch of money is not really wealthy. That doesn't matter. You see, because you got to give it all back to build up Esau's power, influence, land, wisdom. You see, and stability. You're building up his shit, not yours. Okay? So I got some precepts to back that up. Because a lot of Jake are in that spirit of trying to, trying to tap into the world, man. And get that glory on this side, but it's not really no glory. This is Esau's glory. This is Sirach knows Ecclesiasticus chapter 20 and verse 29. It says, presents and gifts blind the eyes of the wise and stop up his mouth that he cannot reprove. And that's how you get people to shut up. They give you that bag. And that's how you get people to, that's how Esau was able to manipulate a lot of Israelites and get them to divert from their power, commit all types of idol worship, and ultimately become some warlocks and witches to help keep Jake in a dead state of mind. And what I mean by that is what Jake do is they push Jake to, they make Israelites be niggas and be Fruit Loops, making women be 304s. They push out that vibration, which is witchcraft. And they make it be like the ideal way to be. Or they might promote Jake to paint their nails and dye their hair and do all this stuff. All this stuff is idol worship in some way, form, or fashion. You see, and they doing that because what? They getting paid, man. And even have a lot of Israelite groups who aren't teaching the names, who are diverting from understanding, saying Jesus now. They saying heathen can make it because they getting that bag. They getting that government charter, that 5 to the O to the 1 C3. All right. So that's making them be in that type of spirit. You see? And that's the problem. Let me see. I think I had some on this too. In a blue letter. Let me make sure. But that's the issue. Because they're ultimately fulfilling this right here. This is Mark 8. I'm starting verse 36. It says, for what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Which you really ain't gaining shit in this society. Back then, men at least had land and had assets, and even if you get assets now, it's all tempered. You don't the money is not backed by anything, and then when you have land, you can't really own your land like you want to because you got to follow a whole bunch of guidelines Esau has, and you got to have all these licenses, and then Esau has all these stipulations where you can only farm this type of way, you can only sell this and do this and that. It's all types of bullshit. So you can't really even have assets in a society. Everything that you get, you giving it right back to this devil. But this is what Jake is chasing, trying to get a spot in this world. And and what you ultimately do, trying to chase that glory, is you lose your integrity. And that's what most Jake are doing. They lose they're selling out to Satan because this world is foundationalized off wickedness. Wickedness is the standard in this society. In order to be the man on this side, you got to do some wickedness. And you got to promote wickedness and be about that. You can't be about righteousness and what the Lord is doing because the Lord is against this place. It says, or what shall a man give in exchange for his own soul? Okay, and that's what Jake is doing. They give it up their whole soul to try and have a spot in this world. You see all types of idol worship and just going off. But it's all to get riches, which really the riches don't even matter. It's vanity. It's all going to pass away. You see? I want to go here because now that doesn't mean because the Spirit has me going into this lesson, that doesn't mean you don't work. Oh yeah, the Lord finna come back. I'm just gonna be I'm not gonna work. I'm just gonna go and just nah, that's not wise. Whatever you're doing to make your living and sustain, you keep doing that. And if you can make more money and it's not getting in the way of the ministry, then you can do that. But you gotta work. You gotta do what you gotta do until the Lord crashes the Lord is crashing the economy. But until we fully have to go and live off our faith, we got to go walk away from our jobs and walk away from all this stuff, because we're gonna have to eventually. But before that happens, you're gonna have to keep working. You're gonna have to take care of yourself. Right? It says Proverbs 6:6. I'm starting at 6. It says, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard, consider her ways." Yeah, I'm gonna start at 6. This Proverbs 6:6. It says, "Go to the ant, thou sluggard, and consider her ways, and be wise, which having no guide, overseer, or ruler." It says, "Provideth her meat in summer, and gathereth her food in harvest." Right? So ants continuously moving and working. They going. You see, they stay busy. They always got what they need. But you can't be no sluggard. That ain't what the Lord is requiring. Now you got to work, man. It says, verse 9, it says, "How long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep?" You see, being just lazy, just not doing, just like, oh yeah, the Lord finna come back, I ain't gonna work. And that's the spirit that certain believers were in. They was like, oh yeah, how was Shah already? He about to come back right now. So they basically just stopped working, and they were just like trying to live off all the other believers, what they were bringing in. And then that's why Paul rebuked them, like, nah, man. So this is kind of mirroring what Paul was saying. It says, "Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding hands to the sleep." It says, "So shall poverty come as one that travaileth, and thy want as an armed man," for being a sluggard and not working. So until they crash the economy and they bring out this CHIP, the MOTB, and make it mandatory where you can't work, you can't do anything, you're going to have to work. You're going to have to make your living. So if there's a way you can do better, you can do that. As long as it don't get in the way of the ministry, then shit, hey, do what you got to do. But you're not to just be lazy and not work and not make your living. You see, because we still here. Babylon is falling, and like the elder in our camp in Dallas, Elder Yatazaki said, Babylon falling, and we in this bitch. We here. We gotta do what we gotta do. Now we know it's not the end all be all, your money and stuff, but shit, you gotta make your bread. Till Yahushua has it up to where they mandate this MOTB, till the Heavenly Father has it. Where it's a time where, okay, boom, you gotta walk away from your job and then walk by faith. You gotta full on go by faith. That time is coming, but it ain't here yet. Till then, you gotta make your living, man. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, and I'm going to start at verse 10. It says, "For even when we were with you, this we command you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. For we hear that there are some which walk among you disorderly, working not at all, but are busybodies." You see, because a lot of men, they was in that spirit of, like, oh yeah, the Lord finna return back. The second coming finna happen, oh yeah, Lord finna come back next week or tomorrow. So they wasn't working, and they were just like living off of the tips and all the things of the believers, man. You see? What the hell? You see? So that's not the spirit. That's not the spirit we are to be in. You gotta do what you gotta do to make your living, and that's it. Now, do we know is that gonna save us? Hell no. Let's get this. This Proverbs 11:4. "Riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivered from death." And how are we deemed as righteous? By faith on Yahushua. You see? Faith and belief on Yahushua and what he spoke. And what are you going to do if you actually believe in what Yahushua spoke and what he said? You're going to apply it to your life to the best of your ability. You're gonna make moves and make decisions based upon the words of Yahushua and his doctrine. If you actually have faith and believe. You see, so it's not just, oh, I believe and that's it. No, your actions are going to back it up. You see? Because those that believe in Yahushua are gonna deal with the persecution, because they know that Yahushua is gonna come and bring vengeance for them. They're gonna be in that spirit of waiting on the Lord to deliver them. They won't seek to try and deliver themselves. They're gonna be in that spirit of treating the men around them with charity, because they believe. You know that these men, that Yahweh spirit is within these men. You see, you're not going to take that MOTB because they know that the Lord is going to return back with the chariots to deliver them. Also, you know, you're going to be in that spirit of trusting in the Lord. So those are just examples on what somebody would do if they actually believe. And that's how we're deemed as righteous, through faith. Belief that Yahweh rose up again. So that way you're not scared of death. All right. But the riches aren't going to profit you in the day of wrath. But like I said, righteousness will. And that's how we're deemed as righteous, through the faith on Yahweh. You see? But even within that, you gotta hey man, you gotta work, man, because we ain't out this mug yet. All right. But you can't trust in that and think that's going to just deliver you. You see, or you'll end up being in this type of spirit. This is James 5 and verse 1. It says, "Go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted and your garments are moth-eaten." And the man Esau is definitely fulfilling this. But a lot of Jake are in that same spirit, that are in high ranking positions. They're doing all types of wickedness, selling out the Lord's sheep, making merchandise of the body, and they getting that bread from it, man. But really, technically, like I said, they not really, no Jake can really truly be wealthy in this society because we're forwarding Esau's kingdom. You see, but they're able to seem wealthy amongst other Israelites. When you deal with the whole world, no Jake is really wealthy. No Israelite is really wealthy, man. You see, because you don't have no say-so in any of the politics. You don't have no say-so in no trade, none of that. Esau's controlling all that. Esau controls the banks. You don't control shit. You just getting money from Esau. It says, verse 3, it says, "Your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped the treasure together for the last days." And that's what's going to happen. A lot of Jake that was in that spirit is going to get jacked up when Yahweh returns. That's why the scriptures say that, woe unto you that are rich. You see? Because like a lot of Jake, they in that mind state of thinking that they riches is the end all be all. And it's not. It says, "Behold, the hire of laborers which have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth." It says, "The cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth." You see the angels. You see all that stuff got documented by the angels, man. You see all the wickedness. Because a lot of these Jakes and even these Edomites doing all types of evils, putting drinking BLOOD, groping little children, doing all types of wickedness, man. And that's what they doing to have that bag, all types of idol worship, sacrificing, kids. And we speak in code because that's like the video. But Esau and our people are following Esau, doing all types of the same wicked stuff. And they're getting a reward on the left-hand side from that. You see, it says, "Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and have been wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in the day of slaughter." It says, "Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doth not resist you." And they did that to Yahweh. And a lot of the Sanhedrin, they wanted to get rid of Yahweh because they wanted to keep that bread and, keep what they had built up. The precept to go to that is John 11 and 48. You see, and they killed a lot of the apostles too, because they was all about that bread, trying to have a spot in this world. But really, a spot in this world is vain in another man's kingdom. Just like it was another man's kingdom back in the Roman Empire. We're still in another man's kingdom. So really, you can't be wealthy here. You see? So that's the point I wanted to go into. And also, to clarify as well, I kind of broke it down earlier, but you have to make your living here. If you can do something to get more shekels, then hey, and it don't get in the way of the ministry, then you can do that. You see, these people think that because you teach the word and you go out to the camp that, oh yeah, he just some bump. Like, no. Brothers work. Make their honest living. We do what we can. We do what we got to do to sustain ourselves. We're not in that spirit of like these Israelites in the world who all they care about is money. They worship money. You see, they all about just making a whole bunch of money. They don't serve the Lord at all. And they completely just commit all their time into just trying to be rich and then be like Esau. That's where you off at. You see, because they're basically in that spirit of worshiping money. We worship Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. In order to worship Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, you gotta put making money and all the other stuff on the back burner. You still prioritize it though, because we still here. We gotta make our honest living, but you gotta sustain yourself. But guess what? You don't trust in that. You see, but that's the point I wanted to go into. You know, Lord willing, this lesson edified. It gave exhortation. I like to end it all by saying, Call Halal, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakak Radash. All right, double honors to the apostles, elders, great millstone, root and teach well. Till next time,